Today's lesson is called, I really came up with the name, but it's called Thorn and Joseph's Side. We're going to be going over the account of Joseph. And really, you're going to see why we went into him, why we went into his account. There's really a different objective. And I hope that everybody has their minds and their spirits, and most importantly, their hearts open for what we're getting ready to talk about today. All right. And a lot of times in Christianity, they paint Joseph out to kind of be this perfect guy who really didn't, I don't want to say didn't do anything, but they just paint him out to be perfect, like nothing was wrong in his life. And when he was facing different tribulations in his life, that he just handled it just willy-nilly, like everything was great. But if you look up, which I did, which we're going to be going into certain things today, different scholars and things that they said, you'll actually be surprised. That's why AHLAHAYANAWA, just telling him a little bit of the synopsis of what we're going into. He came up with that title, A Thorn in Jacob's Side. I said Joseph's Side. Yeah. So let's just get started. We're gonna start off in Genesis chapter 37. I don't know if this lady got a Bible.
You have the Bible? Could you grab a Bible? Could you grab a Bible? Yeah. This is Genesis chapter 37 and verse 1.
We're gonna take this real slow.
And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph being 17 years old.
How old was he?
Being 17 years old.
So Joseph was 17 years old. If you're over the age of 17 years old, you remember how you were when you were 17, especially if you had siblings. Okay? You're young, you're coming into your testosterone, you really don't know the world like that. Fortunate enough, though, his was different, way different than ours world, because he was actually around our forefather, Izrio, Jacob, and that's big. When you literally are with and around the presence of Jacob, you're learning so much more things, because it even tells you in different accounts that Joseph taught the Egyptians things. By who? Where did that come from? That came from knowledge being passed down through Jacob. So, yes, he learned a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, he was still a 17-year-old boy, right? He didn't even come into the flower of his age. Scriptures tell you that the flower of a girl in a boy's age is what? 20 years old. So he didn't even really enter manhood yet. Okay? So just keep that in mind, please. Right? His mind is not fully developed yet. He's still under the bosom. Because is he, right at this point, is he the youngest or the oldest? He's the youngest. So he's still under the bosom of his father. He's his father, and his mother's only child, and that's his father's youngest child. So they're watching him, they're making sure he's good. They're not treating him like the rest of his brothers. Go ahead. He's 17 years old. I just want to highlight that.
Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And
His
Joseph,
father's what?
His father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report.
And so he's a 17-year-old boy. His brothers are older than him. You have brothers that's what, 18, 19, 20, 25, 26. And what does that mean when it says that he brought an evil report? What was he doing? He's 17. Think about that. And he's the youngest. What was he doing? He was ratting. He was telling on his brother. He was literally looking at the things that they was doing, and he would bring back look at what Reuben's doing. Look at what Levi's doing. And of course, Israel at that time is still a powerful man. They would get in trouble with their father. Right? So he's being an annoying little brother is what's going on. He's the youngest. He's 17 years old. All his brothers are older than him. He's being very pesky and very annoying. I remember when that would happen to me, I would, be doing certain things older than my brother. I'm older than my youngest brother by 7 years. And when I was doing things, before I came to the truth, he would just be saying stuff to my mother. And my mother is Haitian. So, I'd just be getting reprimanded and just rebuked about certain things that I was doing, coming home different times of the night, not checking in, and that was very annoying. We would get into arguments, fights even, because of how annoying that was. But when I sat my brother down when he was old enough, he stopped doing that. Joseph didn't have the opportunity to do that. He's around his brothers. This is a thing that people don't think about, right? When we're reading these accounts, they were just like us. If there were certain things that after they finished all their chores and things that they was doing, they was going out. So you think that we just invented this now, we just hold the camp and that we get up with the brothers and this is something new? No, they was actually siblings too at that. Full of testosterone. I'm not saying they was really going off, but my point is they was out doing different things. You got to be able to put yourself also in the mind of this is who we come from. We're their offspring. Reuben, there's Reubenites. Levites is Levites. Ephraim is Ephraimites. So we was doing the same things that they was doing back then. Just this is a different era. So they was doing certain things, going off. They was dealing with different types of things. And guess who was just not going with them and just giving their father an evil report? Joseph. So behind the scenes, right, you have now they're getting into arguments. This is not what's being specified in the scriptures. They're getting into arguments. They're calling him, well, today you'll be called a rat, a snitch, and if it got real crazy, you get other words that is fighting words. Every time I come back from you, always under dad, man, just not giving them a break, right? And meanwhile, who's under the bosom of Jacob? Joseph. So here you have it. He's coddling Joseph. He is putting him to work, but really, what Joseph is doing is he's giving them an evil report of everything. He's taking notes down. This is what Reuben's doing. This is what Levi's, this is Simeon's doing. This is what Manasseh's doing. This is what Naphtali's doing. Right? And that's causing friction between who? Jacob and the rest of his sons. And it's putting Joseph in a better light. All teachers like who? The teacher's pet. Right? Just keep those things in mind, right?
Verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children.
See that? Go ahead.
Because he was the son of his old age.
Because he was the son of his old age. Simply because he was the youngest son, he kept him closer. Right? And
he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren,
but that's significant.
They hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream.
So read that part again. I'm sorry, I just looked at the phone.
And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him.
So every time Joseph came around, this dude don't sucking their teeth. Why is he around us, man? They was treating him like he wasn't even their brother. They came out the same loins. And they seen the favoritism. Usually, sometimes when somebody has a lot of children, if they do have a favorite, they'll keep it on the low. They're not going to show outright their other children that they have favorites. Jacob was showing, it was evident that Joseph was his favorite. He's his youngest boy. He's keeping them close. They probably have to do most of the brunt work. He has to do a little bit of work, but he's not doing the work like how they do it out in the fields, sweating. They're going out to have a good time. They're definitely not inviting him. And they're seeing this, and it's just pissing them off more. Now, when usually in the scriptures, when it talks about hate in certain contexts, it's talking about just opposing. No, they hated Joseph. All this, right, is building up. And it's over years. It tells you that he was 17. But when you get to about the annoying stage, 8, 9, 10, 11, you start doing this. This behavior was going on all the way up until he was 17. Especially when he's 13, 14, 15, we start comprehending and understanding the world even more. You start being a pest. I don't know if anybody here got younger siblings. You start being a pest. In certain instances, some younger brothers are cool, but you really start being a pest to your older siblings. Especially when you have strict parents. And you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing anyways, but still, you're supposed to be like he said in Medicine Society, we're supposed to be brothers, man. Like, we're supposed to be brothers, but you over here telling, you know? Right?
Verse 5.
Right, Kwan. Stepchild treatment. Like, what's this brother doing here? Came out the same loins.
And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more.
He hated him even more. Like, yo, what are you talking about? You're a dweeb. And you're having a dream talking about we're going to serve you? Is this dude bugging? Like, yo, they already had it with Joseph. Go ahead.
For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaf stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told his brethren, and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I, thy mother, and thy brethren indeed come down to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth?
Exactly, because there's an order. So Jacob was like, hold on, hold the phone. You think I'm going to bow down to you? And your mother? There's an order. We understand this order. Like, you tripping right now. You're getting a little ahead of yourself. Right?
And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the same. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, did not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with the flocks, and bring me word again.
So his brother went to go work in the field, and he sent them off to bring him back word on how the flocks are doing and what exactly his brothers are up to. Exactly what he's used to doing anyways. Right? And he could have cut them slack. Like he was saying everything that they was doing. He could have just left off certain things, like, yeah, they took care of the flock, they're out by the water, whatever. He didn't have to say, they was doing this, doing that, going into detail. His father didn't need to know all that, right? But it also doesn't say exactly what they was doing. But I'm just trying to paint the picture for everybody. Go ahead.
So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And there a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They had departed hence, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came
real quick, where was they supposed to be at?
Shechem.
And Shechem doing what? But he asked, so he found somebody on the way, and he asked them, I'm looking for my brothers. Where did they go? Did you see them? He said, yeah, they went to Dothan. So he went after them. That's what's going on right now, right?
And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him.
Because they had it. It says, and when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they started talking amongst themselves like, yo, we about to get rid of this dude. They just had it. They was just fed up. It's not even funny, but because that's your own blood brother. You know? Me personally, because of how I was raised, you know, I couldn't imagine doing that. There was a time where I went to New Jersey with my whole family, and for my uncle's, he was getting his vows renewed, and my older brother, he had a little bit too much to drink, and my mother, she was ready to leave, like to go back home in Boston, and my older brother and my youngest brother, they started having an altercation. I thought it's brother shit, so it's gonna work itself out. And so eventually, long story short, they started swinging, and I got in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? And I actually, you know, stopped them from fighting, and I said, yo, especially as adults, like in no case should we ever lift up our hand to each other. We're blood brothers. You guys are treating each other like, you know, we're out in the streets. You know, so from my perspective, I mean, I understand the story, and this is why we're going into it, but, you know, just how I was raised, you don't ever lift up your hand to your brother, especially as a man. Growing up as kids is a little different. You know, give me that Captain America toy. No. And then you get drop kicked in the head, you know what I'm saying? Then y'all start wrestling. That's different. You know, like as you start to understand life and you start to go through things, especially together as a family, growing up through thick and thin, and you become a grown man with grown man strength, you should not be trying to harm your brother in any way. But Israel is Israel. You have cousins that's riding out, who's in different gangs, killing each other. You have brothers who are in different sets, killing each other because they claim loyalty to a set and not to the fact that they're kin. So things like this been going on. You know, these is just one of the first times that you heard it in this account, right? But they seen Joseph coming afar off, and what they do, they start conspiring like, yo, I'm sick and tired of this dude, yo. Every single time we come around, you know what I'm saying, we doing our thing, he comes around, you know he's gonna go tell dad. It's time that we get him out of here. They conspiring against each other. Right? All right.
Verse 19. And they said one to another, behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say.
They look at them. They said, this dreamer come. This dreamer come, man, making up visions, man. How we gonna serve him? Here he comes. Right? They're coming at him.
Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said.
So real quick, right? I have a question. Does anybody know, at least what scholars say, right? This is what scholars say, but I want to ask the question first. Does anybody know why Reuben was the first one to say anything about not going through with that plan?
He was the oldest. It's like being the oldest, you could really see the folly or the mistakes your younger brothers would make.
It's not a bad answer. Anybody else? Think about it, right? I'll give you a clue. Reuben. That's the only clue you get.
What was the question?
Well, so I've done some, extensive research, and scholars they basically made a point, and they said there's a reason why Reuben was the first one to say, like, nah, let's not go through with this plan when it came to slaying Joseph. And I thought the point was interesting.
Because his name says the excellency of dignity.
You're getting closer.
From the tribe that he's from?
Huh?
The tribe that he's from?
No, it's not because of the tribe that he's from, because he's the progenitor of the Reubenites. So his tribe would start after he has children.
Would it be because his birthright was given to Joseph?
No. So the reason why scholars say that he was the first one to speak up is what happened with Joseph and Reuben. Jacob and Reuben.
He defiled his bed by sleeping with his mother.
And so he didn't want to go through that trouble and that heartache that he caused his father. And he knew that Joseph was the son of his father's youth. His old age, yeah. And that's why they said that he was the one to say, yo, nah, we shouldn't go through with this. And I thought that was interesting, because he didn't want to feel guilty again. You see what I'm saying? I thought that was an interesting point.
Verse 21. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him.
So think about it, right? You have this little brother who everything didn't start. So that's why you got to break down the scriptures. Everything didn't start when he was 17 years old. This annoyance was happening to them since he was probably 11, 12, because they're not all in the same age bracket.
Yeah, when you're real young, you speak truth on everything. They're
not all in the same age bracket. Like some scholars have said, like by this time, I'm not sure how true it is, but by this time Reuben's like 25. Like, so that's an age gap. You know what I'm saying? Like they might be around the same age, but it's not like it's like 16, 17, 18, 19. It's not like that, and so all this has been happening for quite some time. He'll see what his father's doing, see what his brother's doing, come back to Jacob, give him evil reports, or just let them know, snitch on them.
Especially since they're going to extent wanting to slay him. Like that.
Right. You got to think about how he went. Then they was going off into the fields doing things, and he didn't have to work as much as they did. Because remember, what did Jacob say? Go check on them. Go tell me what they're up to, and check how the flock is doing as well. He was used to doing that already since he was a babe. He still is a babe. Right? They was just fed up. So keep that in mind. All right, go ahead.
Verse 22. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was coming to his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat, and his coat of many colors that was on him, and they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead. A
company of who?
A company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren,
Come on, Judah.
What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood?
Dude, thinking about the money.
Yo.
Go ahead.
Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him.
What profit? What are we gonna get from this? You know what? Let's sell them. Let's sell them into slavery.
Spare his life, but that damn. Think about
You know what's so crazy? How I look at that too is I think that Judah compromised because Judah was like he was the brother already that prevailed in a sense.
That's a fact.
And but at the same time he compromises, just like Judah is now, just like he did with Tamar. So he definitely shed mercy for his brother, but didn't want to upset his other brothers. You know what I'm saying? He was like, come on, y'all, let's sell him instead. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was wicked. But, you know, that's how I look at that.
Go ahead.
Verse 28. Oh, wait, no. And let us, verse 27. Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother in our flesh, and his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver.
For how much?
20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes.
Now, see, and that's another thing that they said, like, he was even more nervous because of the thing that he did with his father. Right. So he knew how much trouble they was all going to be in collectively. What y'all saying?
You back that Joseph means Yahweh. That's why I did that.
Joseph is saying he added.
Go ahead.
Verse 30. And he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood. And they set the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this we have found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat.
So another thing that I want everybody to remember is this lie right here. Remember this lie that they're telling that to Jacob. Go ahead. They're gonna revisit it. That's why, like, later in the chapters.
An evil beast had devoured him. Joseph was without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes and put on sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him.
So it caused Joseph. So Joseph, why I keep saying Joseph? Jacob was in like good health, but when he heard that Joseph was dead, it caused him to go into a deep depression. Yeah, it caused him to. When it says that he mourned, he refused their comfort and all of that. It caused his health to decline. And
I didn't know. Just to add, I didn't actually know grief can actually kill people.
Right.
It shows you no man is exempt from the test.
And you're gonna see too, because when they revisit Joseph, you're gonna see when it talks about the health, Jacob's health declining.
Depression.
He went to deep depression.
Verse 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
So real quick before you even continue, we're gonna skip chapter 38. But what's going on in Joseph? Can anybody tell me what's going on in Joseph's mind? Paint a picture for me. What's going on in Joseph's mind? He's 17 years old.
Scared, confusion.
Yeah, this is the biggest trade.
Betrayed, scared. What are some other things you think that he's going through?
He might be confused. I think with what he's been trying to tell his brothers, I don't think he saw this coming. I think it was
something new to him. Because he was speaking to his brother so earnestly about his dreams, I don't think that he foresaw their the malice towards him. So I think this was something that was like a surprise factor that actually happened.
Right.
Come. 39. But yes, he's going through all those things. He doesn't really understand why his brothers are doing that. Remember, he's just a young boy at the time. Why his brothers are treating him like a stepbrother. You know he's annoying. I'm pretty sure they've said it. But he doesn't understand what they're feeling or what they're going through to make him have land in that, in that state, in that condition, that situation. Right? So now we're going to another point. So now he's in Egypt. Right? Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 39 and verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelite, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight and served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had put into his hand.
So Joseph got sold into slavery. He was with this Potiphar, which is an officer of Pharaoh, and whatever he was doing, it was being blessed because the Lord was with Joseph. Right? He rose. Yeah, he's only 17, and he rose to rank quickly. He rose to rank very quickly. Right?
Remember,
he made him. Go ahead.
It tells you the age of Joseph when he was when the Lord restored them, and then it tells you how long he was there. So that's how you can know how old he was.
You talking about like towards the end of it or right now?
No, when you said he was 17, like how we know that is how long the Lord said he was there in Egypt.
Oh yeah.
It gives you the age of when they were restored.
Oh,
You know.
Verse 5. And it came to pass from that time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And
right,
the blessing,
so because Joseph was there, because a Hebrew was there, the Lord blessed that officer's house, who was the Egyptian. Which really, that you could say that about any kingdom that we was in. Right. Anywhere Israel goes, that kingdom prospers because the Lord's people's there. Right. Right.
and the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these
So
things.
this man understood that he could trust Joseph because he would leave Joseph in his house by himself. That's where he got to. He got where his rank raised. He started ordering things in the house. He was holding everything down. Right? Go ahead.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me."
Now, I want to say something real quick, too. That scholars also say that I've looked up. That was pretty interesting to me. They said that Joseph was so handsome that she had called all the women from the east part of Egypt, and she had a banquet just to show off how good he looked. But that was interesting, yo. Like, that's crazy. Talk about thirst. Okay.
Verse 8, but he refused and said unto his master's wife, "Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he had to my hand."
So Joseph was a righteous brother. He wasn't gonna, just because the Egyptian wasn't there, go and sleep with his wife. And plus, he's accounted, like he's seen different things. He's seen what Reuben did with his father, right? So he's understanding. He's a righteous brother with wisdom. But she's the one that was head over heels for him. She was the one that was trying to chase him. He said, nah, I'm good. Go ahead.
Verse 9, there is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife.
Right. There's nobody over me. I'm the highest in the house. The only thing that he kept away from me is you, because you're his wife. Right. That's respect.
How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
You see, that's funny, because I remember when David committed his sin, he said, I sin against thee and thee alone. So that's funny that he said that, because he didn't commit the act. He's not even thinking about committing the act, but then he said, how can I sin against God? That's funny. But
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying,
so she sent all the men out. How is there in the house, and then this one day and nobody's there? She caught him by his garment. She grabbed him up by his garment. Go ahead.
I'm saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her
She
hand.
was begging him.
Oh, you ready to risk it all?
She was begging this brother. Yo.
Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled.
Yo.
And got him out.
He had to do the okie doke. He said, and then his garment ripped, and he left with his garment in her hand. Yo, just think about that.
Not really the whole thing.
That means she was pulling on him on something crazy.
Oh, so wow. Like that amount of aggression, yo.
But just think about if Joseph would have entertained it and he would have done that, it would have ruined the whole incentive for him going.
That's true. That's a fact.
It would have left a stain in our heritage.
That's a fact. It showed his nobles.
And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, see, he has brought in Hebrew unto us to mock us.
Look at that. Read that again. You have brought what?
See, he had brought in Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice.
Wow. She's accusing him of rape. What did Tupac say? No, nothing, no scene, no, nothing. Look at what they got me for.
And
They couldn't even prove it. But what had to happen, the Lord's will had to happen.
And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, they left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us.
Now she's calling him the Hebrew again. Go ahead.
Came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison.
So he was cool with the CO, right? And the Lord allowed Joseph to be cool with the CO, and he was chilling. He had mercy.
See, women ain't changed, man.
It tells you that again, that the Lord
We got
falsely accused, yo. But it shows you again that the Lord all this time was dealing with who? He's dealing with Joseph. But it's funny because Joseph is a 17-year-old boy. He got sold into slavery. He's coming up in the world. He's doing his thing. The Lord is with him. He's being blessed. He raised his rank in a man's house, an officer's house, and then this happens. So he got thrown in prison. What's one of the first things you think Joseph is going to think about? I wouldn't be here if my brothers didn't sell me in slavery.
Right.
That's gonna come. That's gonna come inside your mind.
Right.
After all settled down, after you're in prison, you cool. It's not like you're in there for one day. He wasn't in there for one day. So in prison, what do they say you got time to do? Think. So just think about that as we move forward.
Verse 22.
Wondering how his father's doing, wondering how his mother's doing. You don't know what's going on.
And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. Whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Chapter 40. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in the ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in the ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night.
And the Lord blessed Joseph to be able to interpret dreams. Go ahead, which we're going to see.
Each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God. Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph.
So one was gonna die, and one was gonna return back to Pharaoh. I'm just speeding up the process. Just jump to 15.
Verse 15. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land.
So after he told them in the interpretation of the dreams, he's saying, Remember me. Let Pharaoh know that I interpreted these dreams for you. Go ahead. So verse 15.
For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing.
Read that again.
For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews.
So this right here, it proves what I was saying. He's thinking. You have nothing but time in prison to think. And you think that he's feeling joyful about that? Nah, this is igniting his rage, yo. Remember, he's a boy, bro. He's a boy. He still didn't leave his father's bosom yet. He's coming into manhood in slavery. When his brothers got a chance to come into manhood while they was with them and their mothers. So what Kaz is saying is true. At first he's confused, like, yo, what's going on? Like, my brothers is selling. I'm just trying to tell you the vision that the Lord bestowed upon me. Because then it even says that what did Jacob do? At first he rebuked him. But then he said, exactly. Then he said, hold on, let me observe what my son is actually have a vision about. But his brothers didn't do that same thing. They just thought that he was just trying to make something up, that he was already the favorite. So you're just adding salt to injury to them.
They ain't hearing nothing.
They're not hearing nothing. You're giving evil report of them. You're saying everything that they're doing. Every time you come around, they're treating you like the stepson. And you all came from the same loins. They was fed up, but he was confused. He didn't have a chance to process it. As he's doing what he's doing, handling business in the officer's house, he's raising the rank, he's thinking about it. Of course, he's handling this business, but he feels like he should not be there. He shouldn't be there, even though he knew that the Lord was with him.
Because his job over there was tending to the sheep.
Right.
So he's probably thinking about that job while he's doing his job.
And then this female tried to hem him up to try to sleep with him. He's like, yo, I'm really going through this right now. And then got wrongfully accused of rape. And now he's in jail. Think about all these things that he's going through. And what's the root cause of the problem? Really, he understood later that it was the Lord. The Lord had a bigger plan for him. But in his mind, he's like, yo, my brother sold me a slavery. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for that. Getting wrongfully accused of rape in prison. You know, there's rats up in there. There's mice up in there. Big cockroaches up in there. All types of stuff. It smells bad in there. Think about the condition that he's going in. He was in fields of land. Remember, it says, go check on the rest of your brothers and my flock, which means Jacob had what? Wealth. He had abundance.
Yeah.
That's where he's coming from.
The Bible said he built a house in Shechem. I believe it was in Shechem. When he built this house, a lot of people just think it was, all right, get this little hut together. No. He had a house. He had servants. Who do you think Abraham's servants came from? So he had substance. He had land. And the Bible said that he came from the land of the Hebrews. So when you understand, when it said Jacob built from a house, it wasn't no little rinky-dinky house. He built them a mansion.
Right.
How you gonna fit all them kids in a little hut? With 4 wives? No, he had wealth, like you said.
And now look at what the condition that he's in. He probably can't even bathe like that every day. Just the simplicity of life. He's eating fire lamb. You know they were chefing. What is he eating now?
Suck. That's what it was.
Especially at his rank, he eating good.
You know what I'm saying?
Salakia, it was Succoth.
Succoth?
Genesis 33:17, it says, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth.
That's just for his cattle.
So he built what we call corrals and things of that nature, and what they, because remember, the Egyptians and the Africans, they wasn't herders.
Right.
So when
it says that too.
Yeah, so when we go into these ranches and go into these farms and these lands, like that's what Jacob had. And he had horses and stalls, and so his house was a hut. Was he just had a single family? No, he had property.
He's supposed to just get out of his comfort zone. That's the part of the plan, so he can grow. And if he stays in the comfort zone and all that, what you're saying, where is he going to go?
Right.
We don't grow in the comfort zone.
That's true. But did he? That's what we're gonna try to figure out at the end of this.
Verse 15. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon.
Right, because he didn't do anything. And that's another thing too. He felt like he didn't. That's where the confusion's coming from. What did I do so bad to have my brothers sell me into slavery? What did I do to land myself in prison? She's the one who came. I ran from her. So it's building up, yo. This anger is building up. This sadness too. He's away from, Jacob loved his mom. He's away from his mother. You don't know how Jacob and Joseph used to kick it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes me and my youngest son, Amawan, he'll be like, Daddy. I said, what's up? He's like, sharks. And so I know he want to watch sharks, so I put it on National Geographic and we watch some sharks together. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know how Jacob and Joseph used to kick it away from the other children. There was a bond that was there.
Made him a coat.
Right. That coat is significant, but I don't want to get into that, but right. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know that. And he been deprived and ripped of that. You can imagine what he's going through in his mind. Right? But he does something that's wise because he understands too that the Lord is with him. He understands that the Lord is with him. How do you know that he understands that the Lord is with him? He's prospering in the Egyptian officer's house. When he goes to the prison, he's cool with the CO. He basically is prospering in jail, kind of, so to speak. Not the condition and stuff, but he's cool. The CO's turning his head and stuff like that. Right? He's able to read his gifts, make use of his gifts that the Lord gave him, which is interpreting dreams. And then he's going to see that benefits him later on. Right?
Verse 16. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket
That's
on
the
my
brother
head.
who died. You could just jump to chapter 41, verse 1. So one of them, the officer, that was the officer, right? The officer is the one who lived, and the butler is the one who died. But after that, after he read their dreams, he asked them, don't forget that I did this for you. Tell Pharaoh of what I've done, of my gifts. So just jump down to chapter 41, verse 1.
Genesis chapter 41 and verse 1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold.
So he's still in prison. Right? Joseph's still in prison. Go ahead.
He stood by the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat flesh, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. So he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon the stalks.
So this vision, this dream that Pharaoh had, if when you go into history, Egypt was mighty, like it was a mighty kingdom on the face of the earth, and there was a lot of merchants going in and out, things of that nature, towns, kingdoms around Egypt. But Egypt was like the superpower in that time. And Pharaoh, he had a dream to let him know that eventually Joseph's going to interpret it, that he had 7 good years of when it was plenteous, and he's supposed to put, I think, a percentage away, so that way when there was a famine and the land is resting and things of that nature, that he could give back to the people. But it wasn't just the Egyptians, because it's really the world. Right. Joseph, he specifies that at the end, it's really the world. Joseph was supposed to help save the world.
To add on, that's why that's why the Ishmaelites were coming down to trade, because that makes sense economic-wise.
Right. He says that, and he's gonna establish trauma. But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time. I just want to get verse 46.
Verse 46. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years, which were in the land of Egypt.
So when Joseph read, I said read. That's not like witchcraft. So when he interpreted Pharaoh's dream, he made Joseph second in command over all of Egypt. He was the only one that was higher than Joseph. Right. And so I just forgot to say that part. Go ahead.
And laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn.
So this is significant because while, and this happens to all of us. This happened actually to all of us right now. While we're going through trials and tribulations, right? What are we still to do? I'm talking about men of the Lord. What are we still to do? Strap up our boots and do the will of the Lord, right? Right. No matter what you're facing, what you're going through, you're supposed to be doing the will of the Lord. Right. And so during this time, I have a question real fast. Has Joseph processed everything that he went through fully?
No.
He hasn't processed it. He's busy, right? At the time, he had a time to sit. And then now he's been given a heavy responsibility. The Lord used Joseph. He had a plan for Joseph to save the world, right? Everybody follow me? Come. So he hasn't had time to address everything that's going on inside of him. This is very, very important and key because we're going to start getting to the meat of the matter. I just wanted to, go through the account. But go ahead. There's going to be some pivotal things that we're about to get into. Go ahead.
Verse 49. And Joseph gathered corn.
Jump to verse chapter 42. He had two sons, Manasseh, which means to forget, and then Ephraim, which is fruitful. And when he said the dream and his interpretation of Pharaoh would end up being correct, just summarizing it briefly, I'm just trying to get to where I need to get to.
Genesis chapter 42 and verse 1.
It begins.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither.
That's funny. He said, yo, why you guys looking at each other like there's food and elsewhere? Let's go down there and get us some food. Go ahead.
Get you down thither and buy for us corn from thence,
right,
that we may live and not die.
Over there, y'all know the land is barren. It's not. You can't get anything from the land. We know where the food is at. Go down and get it.
Verse 3. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob said not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob said not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him.
Because what did he believe happened with Joseph? The report that his sons gave to him. When they was with Joseph, he felt that what the story that he believes is that Joseph's dead. He don't want to send Benjamin out because he believes that he wants to protect him, make sure he's in his sight. Right?
Could you imagine how they felt?
Yo, holding that for that long, right?
Josh always read
that.
Like,
I was about to get that.
Could you imagine,
they had to
let him go. Like they don't know they know Joseph ain't dead, but they don't know if he's not dead. That's just what they told him. So, I could imagine Jacob looking at his sons like, y'all told me he was dead. Like they had to have some type of family huddle or council about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bible just gives us the context of certain chronological.
I got like two. That's all. That's what I'm gonna offer everybody. I'm gonna offer two. Like I got two good articles on that. Go ahead.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth.
Fulfilling, if you want to get into the, it's fulfilling the vision that he had. But go ahead.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them, and he said unto them,
hold on. What Christians say is that Joseph was good. He didn't do no wrong. Right? That everything that transpired, he's just completely fine with. Trust me, I went digging. So these are accounts, pastors, scholars. But good thing today we're going to get both sides. Right? So what did he do? And he said, it says, and start from right here, 7 again. And Joseph saw his brethren.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them.
And he knew them. As soon as he saw them, he said, these niggas. You gotta imagine, yo. He's 30 years old, yo.
He sucked his teeth for 15 seconds.
At least.
No, he did.
12 long. Am I doing my math right?
Yeah. Well, from
No,
17 to 30.
13 long years has passed by. And he finally seen them. Remember, he went to jail because of something he didn't do. He had to suffer in prison under those harsh conditions.
Also, as well, the butler, it said 2 years passed by, so he spent more time.
Spent even more time in jail.
Right, he forgot about him, and then that's when he gave Pharaoh the vision.
And then the confusion of why my brother's really doing me like this. All of that immediately rushed to him. That just came out. You just imagine the rage you would be going through right now. Go ahead.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food.
Where y'all coming from, y'all? Go ahead.
And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him not. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and he said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come.
So he's accusing them. He's playing right now because he's upset. So he's making it hard for them to buy food. I'm not going to say corn because it was my. Go ahead.
And they said unto him, nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men.
Think about that. That's mighty. We are all one man's sons. You got 10 strong brothers here. Go ahead, though. That's powerful.
Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, thy servants are 12 brethren.
He said, hold on. 12? Think about it. When they said that, at first, Benjamin is not mentioned there. So he said, yo, they're still lying to Pops? It's been 13 years. 12? Go ahead.
The sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. Joseph said unto them, that is it that I spake unto you, saying, ye are spies. Hereby you shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh, ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and he shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. And he put them all together in the ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them the third day, this do and live, for I fear God. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound into the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child? And ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself.
So as they were speaking Hebrew, they didn't know what Joseph understood what they were saying, because he tried to speak to them through an interpreter. So they wouldn't know that Joseph was Joseph, or he was kin. Go ahead.
And he turned himself about from them and wept. And returned.
So as he's feeling this overwhelming of emotions, he turned away from them. He's crying. He's sad. He's mad. Looking at his brothers, and he's not even there. Right? They're talking amongst each other. Go ahead.
And returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way, and thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the corn, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done unto us? And they came unto Jacob their father, unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who was the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, we are true men, we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father, one is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave.
Go ahead.
I want to say really quick, in
Go ahead.
verse 37,
I'm just trying to get to the one I'm trying to get to. Go ahead.
no, it's funny that Reuben was the one to speak and say that, and then he was the one that also wanted to spare him. And then now it makes sense why you asked the question in the first place.
All right.
Genesis chapter 43 and verse 1. And the famine was sore in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, go again, buy us a little food. Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, you shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down, for the man said unto us, you shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? And they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. And we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down. And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him, if I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever.
You know what's funny though? Is that when Reuben asked for Benjamin to go down so that they could prove that they weren't spies, he said no. But when Judah asked, he let him go. Just it's a little interesting. Sometimes, huh?
Verse 10, for except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time. And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land of your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your
Just jump
sacks.
to verse 24.
Verse 24.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 24. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon, for they had heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare and said, Is your father well? The old man of whom you spake, is he yet alive? They answered, Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive.
You're at 42 and 24?
No, I'm at 43 and I'm thinking.
Oh, I'm tripping. Yeah, go ahead.
Verse 28. They answered, Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, This your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me. And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. And they set on him for by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians, which did eat with him, and by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another. And he took and sent message unto them from before him.
44 and 20.
Genesis chapter 44 and verse 20. And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead, and he is alone, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou saidst unto thy servant, Bring him down unto me, that I may set mine eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die.
Read that again. This is very important.
The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die.
So it was so detrimental to Jacob's health when he heard that Joseph died that he couldn't take another loss from one of his sons. Right? Well, go ahead. Read what Joseph's about to say.
And thou saidst unto thy servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, you shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again and buy us a little food. And he said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother be with us, then we will go down, for we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant my father said unto us, Ye know that my wife bare me 2 sons, and the one went out from me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if ye take this also from me, and mischief befall him, you shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die, and thy servant shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave.
So he's just basically saying, summarizing, like, if Benjamin goes out from me, I'm going to lose it. I'm giving up the ghost. All right? 1 second. Okay, boom. 45 and 1. 45.
Genesis chapter 45 and verse 1. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out for me. And he stood, and there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, and and the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brethren,
loud when he's seeing this, right? He's weeping bitterly right now. Go ahead.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph, doth my father yet live?
So, two things, right? I think all the articles right now. Two things. When there's two different articles. There's a Christian article that I have. We'll probably read it after we get through this because it's kind of long. But one says that this was a defining moment in Joseph's life where he actually forgave his brother. The other, which I found was more interesting, was saying it like Joseph said that angrily because they kept saying to Joseph, "Yo, we do our father's health's in bad shape. If Benjamin leaves us or leaves his father, my father's gonna die. His health is gonna be done." So one article that I have says that Joseph's saying it like, "I'm Joseph. Is our father still alive?" You understand? I'm gonna get it though right now. Actually, pull up both of those articles. I'm just trying to get through this, yo. I have a couple of videos.
Yo, it's crazy what AHLAHAYANAWA is saying because for some reason that part always get me a little tear coming to you.
Yeah.
Something about that event when Joseph is reconciled with his family is like, it's emotional still.
Yeah. I thought, yeah. Which one is that one? Come on, man. Now you have to slow that screen. That's yeah, all right. That is the first one. That's the first one. That's the one, man. You're gonna have to scroll all the way down though. It says the brother's angry response can also be related to Joseph's attitude. I'm over here thinking about myself. You got it? Yeah, boom. All right, read that.
It says the brother's angry response can also be related to Joseph's attitude and his function within their family. At the beginning of the narrative, the narrator tells us that Joseph was 17 years old and was the one who shepherds. The sequence of the sentence is not pronounced that.
You don't have to read it.
With this qualification, the sentence might mean that Joseph was the one who shepherds with his brothers, or that he was the one who shepherds his brothers. Because the information we get right after is that Joseph would bring bad reports about his brothers to his father and that he was his father's favorite, then the second option is probable. Therefore, Joseph was kind of a supervisor over his brothers. This makes better sense of the whole narrative. It explains why Joseph would have such pretentious dreams. It also points to the political discussion the narrative would present, given that a shepherd of other people was a common image of kingship in the ancient Near East. So this is what Joseph's dreams imply, and the whole narrative prompts readers to expect and wonder how they will be fulfilled. Will Joseph be one of the kings who descend from Sarah? If so, is he going to exercise kingship by means of coercive power that humiliates and even enslaves his family and all of the families of the earth?
Good. still up here. All right. All right, so go down to where it says inversions in the story of Joseph and his brother. Because this is like the typical, like, understanding. I'm not gonna put a label on it. I'm not gonna say Christian or not, but this is the way most of us read it. Right. Yeah, right here, yeah.
Says, how did this move from pretentious king over his brothers to providing for his brothers' little ones happen in Joseph's life? The answer resembles what happened to Hagar. I demonstrated in my first article for the CHT that Hagar's pregnancy led her to treat Sarah as inferior, but it was through her humiliation and submission that she entered the family of the covenant to be blessed accordingly. Joseph also starts by regarding his brothers as inferior. In response, they do to Joseph what they feared he would do to them. They enslave him. As a result, Joseph is humiliated several times under a monarchic power in Egypt. Instead of using his power to rule and dominate his brothers, he uses it to protect the life of his brothers and their little ones, because he himself had suffered under the rule, and
Which is powerful. Meaning like he forgave them and decided to move on. But I have a question, a really good question. Is moving on and forgiving the same thing?
No.
There we go. But this is like the meat part of the lesson I want to get to. Go ahead, keep reading though. I'm just going to get to the precepts that I need. Go ahead though.
And domination of his brothers in a monarchic power. The aversion of desired kingship to activate servanthood is due to Joseph's experience of forced humiliation, like Hagar's.
Nope, you're going.
The identity of Joseph as victim, just like Hagar, is important. It is his experience of slavery, oppression, and even exile that teaches him how God envisions the right use of power to preserve the lives of many people. Joseph's decision to serve his brothers and their little ones, despite their wrongs against him, seems to be the path of justice by which Abraham's family blessings will reach all the families of the earth, and by which the divine blessing will reach all humanity. Therefore, even though Joseph does not humiliate himself like Hagar did, he does use his power and influence for the benefit of those who did actually put his life at risk, which is similar to the context of Hagar's experience.
Right. So that's one article. And it's basically saying that, after Joseph suffered and he dealt with that, he used his power to take care of his siblings, which he did. But there's some key components that, I just want to make people think a little bit. We're going to get into. Pull up that other article. Because it says right here, read that, right? Before he pulls up the other article, we're going to bounce around. We're going to come back to that. When it says that he wept. Because remember, this is what I want everybody to remember. They kept saying to Joseph, what they keep saying to Joseph? I know you remember. But they keep saying about Benjamin. Why?
Because his father couldn't take it anymore.
Remember that. So look at, right? There's that, boom. And then what did Joseph say after he heard that? What exactly did he do after he heard that?
He took his other brother.
No, what did he say?
Didn't he say he's Joseph? How is my father?
Right. All right, cool. So hold on. Go down to that right there, right? It's the other one. And then let's get Genesis 50 and 17.
go 45. Chapter 50.
No, I just want you to, because when we read this article, it goes through both. So I want you to see 15 and 17.
This is Genesis chapter 50 and verse 17. So shall ye say unto Joseph, forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin, for they did unto thee evil, and now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servant of the God of thy father.
Who's talking? Does anybody know who's talking? Read that again. You can start from like 16.
Verse 16. And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father
they? Go ahead, read.
Thy father did command before he died, saying.
So who's they?
His brothers.
His brothers. They sent a messenger to Joseph, right? Saying what?
So you shall say unto Joseph, forgive, I pray thee.
To do what?
Forgive, I pray thee.
So we're gonna go back. Okay, right? So this is how. I'm just trying to make you think. That's it. I ain't saying that he did. I ain't saying that he didn't. But I found this very, very interesting, especially when I read this article. It gives you a different perspective. So get back when he said what he said, because a lot of people they when we read it, even me, I'm thinking he forgave him, right? Go ahead, read it again.
Chapter 45.
But I'm just offering a different perspective. That's all.
Genesis 45.
When he what verse is it? When he said, "I am Joseph."
45 and 4.
Yeah, get that.
Genesis chapter 45 and verse 4. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life.
So this is the thing. He understood why the bigger picture. But just because he understood the bigger picture, doesn't mean that he felt okay with what his brothers did still. And then, if he forgave him in that instance, why did they send a message to him when Jacob died after he went to bury him? Which says, get 16 again.
Genesis chapter 50 and verse 16. And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall you say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee.
Forgive. So he sent a messenger. All of his brothers sent a messenger to him, saying, he said, they're making it up too. This is another thing. This is off about him. Because Jacob didn't say that. He said, yo, this is what our father told him to do. This is what our father told you to do. Read it. What did it say? So
shall you say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now.
Forgive, I pray thee now. Go ahead.
The trespass of thy brethren and their sin.
So our father told us to say to you when he had access to his father, because he brought his father in Egypt. Why wouldn't Jacob say that to Joseph directly? Exactly. Go ahead.
Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of God thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him.
He cried again.
And his brethren also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for am I in the place of God?
Yeah, I'm not the one who's going to judge you.
But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it.
You thought evil against me. Right?
But God meant it unto good to bring to pass.
I understand why all this happened. Go ahead.
As it is this day, to save much people alive.
To save much people alive. Go ahead.
Now therefore fear ye not, I will nourish you in your little ones.
He said, I will nourish you in your little ones. If you look up that word nourish, right, it means to forbear or to sustain. So in the article, it says that he used his influence and his power to continue to take care of his brethren, right? But this is what I want to. I'm trying to like make everybody think about this. Right now, right? He said something extremely powerful. It's powerful. But his brothers are asking for them to forgive him. And this is his response. He says, yo, I understand why everything happened. I'm still like, I'm just because our father died, you know what I'm saying? This isn't Jacob and Esau. You know what I'm saying? When Esau wished death after his father died, to continue to chase and kill and devour his little brother. It's not this type of situation. I'm gonna continue to sustain y'all. Y'all gonna be taken care of. But this begs the question too. Why are they asking for his forgiveness if he already forgiven prior? Right? Let's read the article now. If he forgave them, why is he asking? Why are they asking for forgiveness? Why are they scared? If everything's okay, because remember, he brought his family to Egypt. He's talking with his father. He's having dinner with his brothers and breaking bread with them. Now that his father's in the ground, 6 feet deep, why are they asking for it? Why are they afraid that he's going to do something to them?
I would guess because the father's not there to check him or anything like that. So they probably just got scared. Now that our father's dead.
They're already supposed to be forgiven, right?
Yeah.
I remember he was the favorite too, and then now that he's gone, and like Nathan would say, he's not in the picture no more. Like now he can do what he wants because he's Lord over them. Like he's second in command of Egypt, so he has the power.
And plus, he was playing with them for a little bit.
Right.
All right. That.
Yeah, so you know what's so heavy about even just that scripture? There's a lot of people right now that's suffering in their home, that's suffering in the world, in the job, in the field, in this earth, because what people mean in their thoughts and their evil thoughts towards you, when you are the one that suffers for their evil thoughts, you're the one that's supposed to come out and transcend, because the Lord caused them to be against you so that you could be molded in a place where the Lord is just going to allow you to. You're the one the Lord has to use to go through all of the suffering for them. Like you got to be the one to climb above the clouds and be up there with the Lord, something with the Lord, and being the one to be able to take all of that. So when you come back down, you'll have all of the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding, but you had to be separate. You had to be the one to be the reject or the one to be rejected because you was chosen. You see what I'm saying? Like their evil thoughts was for your good, is what I'm saying. So sometimes that's why the Bible said, render not evil for evil. Like when somebody's talking evil about you, right? Whether your husband or your wife, right? Just know sometimes it's because the Lord wants you to transcend.
Right.
We don't gotta.
And that's crazy, man.
React to it, and that's something I still gotta learn.
That's a fact. That's a fact, yo. Because that's powerful.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The other article.
Azali basically said because of their own self-guilty conscience, they have forgiven themselves.
But what makes them think that they want forgiveness? Go ahead. What's the article? Is that the article?
No, you had to switch over.
Oh. Yeah, I just thought this was an interesting perspective. We could start from the beginning. And then so I was saying I'm gonna jump into just one of the videos. It's hard though, which one? Judah's though. Is it glitching? What's going on? It's all right. You can just read this from here.
So the title of this article is, Did Joseph Ever Forgive His Brothers? The great British author William Blake wrote, "It is easier to forgive an enemy than to forgive a friend. The only thing that would be harder would be to forgive a brother, but not just a brother who has sold you out to slavery and robbed you of your youth. And so,"
We heard that. That's
Robbed you of your
robbed you of your youth.
about that.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. You probably had a girl he liked.
And then another thing too. Right. And then who's Joseph? He didn't even get to see his mother. She died.
Right.
So that's a new problem.
That's
Right? We know no, keep going. Oh, so you got it? Oh, just to keep those things in mind, man.
And so, as the brothers of Joseph came to a heartwarming meeting and reconciliation, we are left with the question, did Joseph ever forgive his brothers? Could he ever forgive them for what they have done? It turns out that the answer to this, like so much else about Joseph's life, is elusive. As Judah approaches Joseph at the beginning of the Parsha, Joseph attempts to carry his social experiment until the end. Joseph would like to find out if, once again, the brothers will sell out one of their brothers, in this case, Benjamin. Joseph wants to see if he can take Benjamin from them as a slave without protest, or if they will make sure to fight for him. As Joseph sees Judah speak in the sharpest of ways, demanding Benjamin back, he can no longer keep the mask on his face. Now it makes sense. Well, okay, calm. Calm.
You know, I have to,
Calm. Now Joseph could not bear all those standing beside him, and he called them out. Take everyone away from me. So no one stood with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept out aloud, so the Egyptians heard, and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?
He wanted to see if they truly thought about what they did to him over time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was. Yeah, exactly.
Remember what Judah said too? He said, basically put the boy in my care. He's in my responsibility. Put him in my hand.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's a whole nother thing. But Jacob, that like when I was reading this, it just made me think about Judah and like how Judah is and his prevalence and things of that nature.
YHWH too.
Yeah, because like, what's the difference between Reuben and Judah? Judah literally, his older brother asked him the same thing, but he went with Judah.
Right.
And then it just, I think that's a play too. Like I like that because it's like, wow, like it just shows you Judah's significance as well.
And you know what's interesting too? It shows you how much YHWH actually had to bear, because there were transgressions where offenses weren't written yet, but those were offenses that still happen. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Like you sell a man to a person, that's something worthy of death.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so all of that had to be healed in YHWH's death. All that had to be restored in that unification of the tribe still needed to be healed. You know what I'm saying? By the Father. You know what I mean? So of course it's an amazing reconciliation, but that doesn't take away that Judah caused something to befall him later on.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So our sins always are generational. And YHWH had to, reconcile us to the Father even in those senses. If you get what I'm saying.
It just makes sense why he asked about Reuben. That's an interesting perspective. I never thought of that.
Yeah, just
It's a good lesson.
go ahead.
If shock can ever be tangible, this would be the time. One can cut the air with a knife, as the brothers no longer know what to believe. Many commentaries wonder, why is it that Joseph introduces himself with those words? The two parts of the sentence seem so incongruous. I am Joseph, is my father still alive? If indeed,
So you understand what they mean by incongruous? Like, he's not saying it like, what they mean by that is like, he's not like saying like, I'm Joseph, is my father alive? He's like saying like, I'm Joseph, is my father still alive? Like, that's how he's saying it because of how angry he was. And Elder Panah brought up a good point. He's trying to see if they still care. Like, did they acknowledge what they've done? You know what I'm saying? That makes sense?
Yeah,
You said you about to bring up a point?
No, another point is, along with his mother passing,
Yeah.
and then having to, bear all of that. That tells you he thought about his father consistently.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that came out of his mouth, which shows you the importance of a father to a child. Like, he made him a coat that was of beautiful colors. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't know that the Hebrews, we would call it the Ibaru, we were the ones that introduced the colorful clothing. Remember, a lot of heathen didn't like what we did.
Yo, right.
You know what I'm saying? Think about it. All the Americans in the 50s and the 60s was wearing black and white suits. Boring until we came out in the 70s with the multiple colors and Jackson 5 dances and fringes in the multiple colors, and the 90s 80 Coogee. Like, that's us. That's us by design. So, like, that's what we bring. But when you look at the story, he was a very special person to his father, and clearly that's the first thing when he introduces himself. Is Pops alive, man?
Mm-hmm.
That tells you he couldn't get his father off his mind.
That's a fact. Good point.
many commentaries wonder, why is it that Joseph introduces himself with those words? The two parts of the sentence seem so incongruous. I am Joseph, is my father still alive? If indeed Joseph worried about his father, he should have asked about it earlier. Surely Joseph did not need to include the question in his very first sentence. Rabbi Joseph, the great 18th century scholar.
You could tell that was an Edomite who wrote that. You shouldn't have included that. It's not very necessary. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Joseph definitely was black.
Right.
And he became a father, so I made him think about his father even more. So
It says, the great 18th century scholar, indeed of the famous Volozhin Yeshiva, shares the following insight. The brothers' strongest argument for the release of Benjamin was their father's well-being. It says, and now, when I, Judah, come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, since his soul is attached to his soul, it will come to pass when he sees that the boy is gone, he will die, and your servants will have brought down the hoary head of your servant, our father, in grief to the grave. When Joseph says, I am Joseph, he is not introducing himself. He is issuing the most scathing rebuke the brothers could have heard. I am Joseph, the one you sold into horrific slavery. Is my father alive? You didn't worry about him when I was sold. Why weren't you thinking of our old father when you sold me?
Keep going.
This man is hammering away at this.
Damn, he cutting him.
Right.
I just thought that was interesting. Like, damn, I never looked at it like that. Go ahead.
Like, you think about his grief.
Yeah.
It says, and so the brothers are speechless. But his brothers could not answer him because they were startled by his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they drew closer, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not be sad, and let it not trouble you that you sold me here, for it was to preserve life that God sent me before you. It says, the godly and angelic tone in Joseph's words cannot be ignored. Here he is looking at the same brothers who have robbed him of his youth, freedom, and almost of his very life. Joseph is able to share with his brothers his belief that ultimately it was all for good. At the same time, one can argue that Joseph is not forgiving, he is just resolving to move on. Joseph tells the brothers to bring their families to Egypt and promises to take care of the entire family. Once Jacob hears about Joseph's life and ascent to power, he comes to Egypt with the entire family, famously with 70 family members. So much of what happened between Joseph and the brothers remains taboo. No family therapy, no working through issues, no kumbaya. Everyone seems to move on with life. The desire to normalize relations as quickly as possible dominates everyone's priorities. Was there forgiveness, or did Joseph just want to move on? What did Joseph mean when he told the brothers, let it not trouble you that you sold me here, for it was to preserve life that God sent me before you?
Keep going.
Yeah, scroll down now. Okay, there we go. Dr. Ayelet Seidler, a Jewish Studies faculty member at Bar Islands University Midrasha program, points out that Joseph's words here are so similar, yet so different from the words he uses once his father dies. While Joseph's original statement speaks of it all being for good, asking the brothers not to worry once Jacob dies, Joseph says something very different. After Jacob's death, the brothers fear Joseph's retribution is finally coming. His brothers also went and fell before him, and they said, behold, we are your slaves. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid, for am I instead of God? Indeed, you intended evil against me, but God designed it for good, in order to bring about what is at present to keep a great populace alive. So now do not fear, I will sustain you and your small children. And he comforted them and spoke to their hearts. Joseph's tone is assuring, yet far less positive. He tells the brothers they intended to do evil. He tells his brother they are deserving of punishment. He tells them he will sustain them, but nothing like what he had told them when their father was still alive. Furthermore, had Joseph fully forgiven his brothers, it is unlikely that they would be concerned that he is about to kill them. Rashi, the great rabbi, shares a midrashic insight along these lines. Now Joseph's brothers saw that their father had died. What does it mean when they saw? They recognized Jacob's death in Joseph, for they were accustomed to dine at Joseph's table, and he was friendly toward them out of respect for his father. But as soon as Jacob died, he was no longer friendly toward them.
Salakia, anybody that really thinks Solomon's name, Mighty Solomon's name was really pronounced Shlomo, they just got stuck.
That's why I don't want to read it.
Yeah, because
That's
the
what
Rabbi Shlomo, that's how you render Solomon.
I never even knew that.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
Shlomo? His name was Shlomo.
But nah, I just wanted to offer
Pokemon.
Yeah.
I just wanted to offer a different perspective of that. I thought that was very, very interesting. But yeah, I thought that perspective was interesting. I really brought this out because I've been meditating, and all of us, we know that we're coming to the end. You know, all of us should be occupying. You know what I'm saying? All of us should be, pursuing things, putting this work first, of course. But one thing that we all should be doing, and I'm not going to always, because sometimes trauma is redundant, but you have to talk about it when you talk about forgiveness and healing. But I'm talking about in aspects of everything. There's things that lie dormant in brothers' and sisters, that whether it be marital issues, if your husband was out fornicating 7 years ago, and you still can't flex that forgiveness muscle, you need to look in the mirror and try to start working that muscle out, man. There's things that you have to address. There's things that we have to do moving on in Israel. If you still are dealing with certain things that I remember, I was talking with a brother, and we had a similar story as far as like verbal abuse. Like my mother, even though she's the reason why, like, I'm extremely confident. Well, as a child, she did things to make sure my confidence was up there. But the oxymoron in that is she would try to use words to dumb me down, which doesn't make any sense. But that's something that used to trigger me back in the day that I ended up forgiving my mother for, because if I didn't, then that would still trouble me till this day when I heard certain things or when I hear certain brothers say certain things. We need to, whether it be, through molestation, you got that's a little bit touchier. That's different because through a wise man, he broke down for me, like, when actually a child's touch, that's actually committing the sin of murder. And the child, like, there's certain parts that you kill off in a child when you get, that's deeper. But like, when it comes to issues, the real issues that we got to address, we really got to, as we're getting closer to the end, try to forgive those people who've done those things to us. Because one thing is, those people who've done certain things or caused certain offenses, you'll allow them to have power over you. You allow them to have power over you. And true forgiveness, it feels free. It feels like an alleviation of the soul and the spirit. It's not something that you have to attach to or burden yourself with. Men who's having problems with sisters that they have, maybe they've been sending texts to a brother or whatever the case may be. That happened 2 years ago. We got to forgive. Forgiveness is for who?
So
For yourself, yo. Forgiveness is for yourself, man. But that's if it be possible, right? You can't. There's certain people you can't be around or things of that nature, and there's certain times where I believe that Joseph forgave because we're a nation of counselors. We're wise. I just brought that up as a certain perspective. You know what I'm saying? But who's to say that, let's say that he wasn't that would have been a thorn in his side for the rest of his life. Does anybody understand where I'm coming from? Right. You know what I'm saying? We have to get to a place where we're actually addressing our issues and forgiving. We're forgiving and alleviating those burdens. And the one person you can go to for sure is always YHWH. Because what did he tell you to do? To cast your burdens on him, man. Well, a lot of us, we don't want to revisit some of the things that we used to go through, whether it be physical abuse, whether it be through parenting, whether it be through marital issues. Not everything comes from trauma from when you was a little kid.
You know what else is heavy is a lot of times we don't apply the basic instructions. Give us a day our daily bread and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. So, like, those who are indebted to us, like, that's very basic. And we say that as the Lord's Prayer, but it's actually application for your mental stability, your spiritual and emotional stability. Because if you look at it, YHWH said, "Come to me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." It really is. So would you rather choose Esau's yoke? Because the scriptures say he heavily laid the yoke upon the ancient. So whose yoke are you going to take? Like, which direction are you going to go when you want to manage your emotions, when you want to manage your how you're supposed to subdue all of these weaknesses within you and get over the past, etc. You go to YHWH, he's going to give you the right method to follow. His way is going to be easier to relieve steam off you. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
When you're going to get put through something, but you rather go through something harder, you know? So he said, come to me, my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Right.
You know, so we put these burdens sometimes on ourselves by grudging. Like me and Cassandra was kind of talking a little bit back, just getting a little bit more nuggets. Like imagine, you know, let's imagine, I said this earlier, let's imagine if Joseph didn't forgive his brothers. You know, imagine if he slept with Potiphar's wife. That would be a stain in our people, right? But just imagine if he grudged, right? And sat on the throne. I'm a king now. Look at me. You know, like what are our brothers doing now? You know, they're spiting each other, etc. But what if he was spiteful in that situation? Then our people wouldn't have been saved through that family. You know, it took forgiveness. And when the Bible says that it was a man filled with the Spirit of God in Genesis 43, that was Joseph who was able to forgive his brothers. You see what I'm saying? So that the Lord could favor Israel. He made that decision, being the seat he was, and he actually embraced them instead of sending them off into prison. Like, now look, I can sell y'all off now. How about Judah, you go there, Simeon, you go there. I'm a king now. What's up? The Lord has chosen me.
Yeah, that's why I said I believe that he forgave his brothers. That's evident to me. Go ahead.
And a lot of people don't realize there's multiple fashions of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness doesn't always mean you have to be buddy-buddy with anybody. Forgiveness can also mean being content with a situation that was given to you in order for you to have your own peace of mind. You know what I mean? If you harbor emotions and negative malice towards anyone or any situation, that's gonna deteriorate, you know. So just to add on what you're saying, you know, forgiveness is a very vast. It's a spectrum. There's multiple forms of forgiveness. There's multiple forms of forgetting things. So I think that he did forgive his brothers, but he did it in a fashion to where he held on to what they did, but he didn't hold it against them maliciously. You know what I mean? He forgave them in a sense to forget what it is that they did in order to move forward, because he understood that even though it had to happen, it was in the betterment of his family in the end. You know,
Like you said too, like he cast that issue onto God. He said it wasn't my doing, it wasn't you that did this, it was God's will. And this type of forgiveness that he gave.
I was just gonna say, I feel like him being in the house and studying put him in a position that he was the only one best suited for the position that he was put in, because if not, if he was with his brothers, he's probably been out being wild, just, you know, doing whatever, lazy or whatever, just like they were. So for him to be in the house studying, to when he got sold into Egypt, they saw his work that he did. He was disciplined in his work, the same with discipline with the sheep and stuff like that. So that raised him up and raised him up and raised him up to where he was in a position to, I should say, save the world.
I wouldn't say that his brothers was lazy.
Nah, yeah, they weren't lazy.
I would say Joseph was the most sincere out of all of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not you know, trying to say you were wrong for what you said, but like the patriarchs, they was not lazy
At all.
But there was that was just
Bad choice.
Joseph's lot. You know what I'm saying? That was just Joseph's lot. And you know, think about it. That's the firstborn of the woman that he loved. You know, even when you know, my children, I could see the child that I know is going to be the most spiritual. I could say this online, Jamar. My son Jamar is the most spiritual of my sons. You know, Jai is the most keen of my sons. You know what I mean? Judah is the most, you know, he's the most introverted, but when it comes time for him to open up and shine and be him, he's the most talented of my sons. So it's like Jacob knew all his sons' capability, but he knew the Spirit of the Lord was dealing with him. It's not up to us to choose. That's just how they bonded because the Lord put that in Joseph's hands. Just like the Lord put it in David's hands.
That's a fact.
And he took,
And to support what you're saying, that example when he first told his dream,
right.
Jacob first rebuked him, but then, like you're saying, he knew that the Lord was working with Joseph, so he reconsidered and he actually observed what he was saying.
Right.
When he was talking about the dream.
Right.
Now that makes sense. I just got that video. Play the one with the sister and the father, not the one with the Edomite.
It's good. I didn't think all this was deep.
You know, I just, you know, because there's things, man, that I went on a vacation recently. For those who don't know, with my rib, and you know, we, you know, I'd say I'm definitely a blessed man, to have a decent marriage. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there's ups and downs and stuff like that. But this woman, she's held me down. And when we went on a vacation, we was away from home, away from the kids. We went on the cruise. We went to different islands and stuff like that. And there was things that we spoke about that I thought that was over with. But certain things surfaced and we really got to build and really talk deeply and forgive each other. And there was just a lot of emotions that was, you know, displayed and things of that nature, and that caused us to really appreciate that time and being on vacation, and how that when you're going through the day-to-day, when you know your man is a man of, you're taking care of the things that you're working, you're taking care of the kids, you know, all these things are stressing. You don't have the time and the ability to basically pour everything out. You know, it can hinder your growth. It can hinder your marriage growth, all types of things. And you know, this is something that I was meditating on, because I really think it's really important for everybody. There's things inside you. A lot of times that you know what we do a lot of? What we do a lot of is we just move on. We move on and we bury things. Move on, we bury things. We move on, we bury things. And sometimes you just gotta take time to just really go through your mind. You know what I'm saying? Because then you start getting impulsive. Then you start getting depressed. Then you start thinking about things that you don't need to think about. Because either you didn't empty out, you know, or pour your cup out, you know what I'm saying, of all the things that you've been through, or you just didn't forgive the people and the things that you need to forgive. Whether that be you and towards a brother, marital issues, parents growing up as children, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Well, go ahead and play that video. And after that video, if anybody wants to say anything, I can say. This is when I tell you this is a powerful testimony, it's a powerful testimony about the sister and her father. If you could blow it up.
When I was 28 years old, I felt called to Los Angeles to be near my father, who had been living there the majority of my life. I asked him to come to Atlanta so we could take a road trip. We packed up my 2003 Honda Civic, in- including my favorite stuffed animal, Honey Bear, and started driving. Pops had this idea to make the trip educational. First up, the Civil Rights Memorial, Montgomery, Alabama. From Montgomery, we went to the George Washington Carver Museum at Tuskegee University. There, we rediscovered Pops's love for the multiple uses of the peanut, starting starting with eating them all the time. Next stop, Pensacola, Florida, because wherever we are, there must be water. The Gulf of Mexico was calling our name.
We drove and laughed and cried. We exchanged our biggest ideas for the future. all witnessed by little brother Honey Bear in the back seat. Somewhere driving the never ending road through Texas, and while jamming to the dance floor mix of Let's Groove Tonight, I must have entered a trance, and like a Southeast DC oracle, I told my daughter, "You've reclaimed your life, Adenike. Now live your life. It's your time to victorize the situation." First, though, she said,
Pops, you do know victimize is not a word, right?
"Yeah, but," then the poetry sunk in, and we both realized it means squeezing victory out of a negative situation, creating your own path, living your life in power on your own terms. Victorize.
Yeah, that was just like my pops to help me reframe a terrible experience I had. When I was 14 years old, my stepfather violated my innocence with sexual touching, and at 16 years old, he raped me and clouded the violation under some sick predatory guise of preparation for my teenage sexual years. He continued the sexual thievery until I turned 22. But I'm happy to say that my real father, this dude right here, became an integral part of my healing. Instead of shutting down and turning away from each other, we chose to turn towards each other. We chose to be well. We started what I now call my journey of reclamation. I started by telling my family about my stepfather. Understandably, they were upset, yet I immediately directed them not to retaliate.
Yeah, and you best believe I plan to retaliate. I did. I'm glad we can laugh now, that's for sure. I planned to retaliate, but I didn't. By the time I got the news, I was instantly prepared to find the shortest route to revenge. I know gangster, but I would have found a way to kill this man. Thankfully, my daughter, point blank, asked me to be her daddy and not her avenger. The opening words from a favorite novel of mine, The Salt Eaters by Tony Cade Bambara, welled up within me and demanded an answer. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? How could I be well and still be a man if I didn't go to war with a foul individual who had hurt my daughter? Adenike's insistence that I walk with her, that I follow her lead, was my key to answering that question.
I recognized that despite my own innate desire to be protected and safe, I didn't want either one of my parents to go to jail. I knew there would be no personal satisfaction or gratification if they were incarcerated for punishing my criminal stepfather. I'm so thankful they listened to me. I didn't have a plan of action for my stepfather, but I had a plan for my family. I'm so grateful my father turned towards me and respected my request to stand down. And to this day, he has allowed me to continue to lead the charge to our healing. He showed more strength and restraint compared to his natural instinct to destroy my stepfather.
Listen, like so many men, I had absorbed the lessons that I must protect my honor at all costs. From other men, from the movies, from locker rooms, from the very culture of American manhood. I was taught that her sexual assault is all about me. that her sexual purity is directly connected to what it means for me to be a man, a good father, a protector.
So this dude, and his daughter, um, she ended up getting molested from the ages of 14 to 22 by her stepfather. This dude who was molesting her was cool with her father, yo. They knew each other well. So the reason why, like part of the reason why I sent it in the group chat, y'all could, listen to it on your own time, y'all should, because it's a very, very powerful testimony. Because for him, when I heard this, I was raging, like upset, because I have 2 daughters. And I know what I would do if I just thinking about it makes my blood boil. And for his daughter to say, can you please stand down and help me and support me through this healing stage? You know what I mean? It's like, I couldn't imagine what he had to go through, because that's his daughter. He's the one who's supposed to protect her, guide her, instruct her. And so he starts describing his emotions and what he went through in order to be able to stand down and not kill this dude. Because that's exactly what he wanted to do. And he's trying to tell you, but it's glitching, it's getting on my nerves actually. But, I went over this lesson and used Joseph's account. I just think that we should be thinking about that more, like flexing our forgiveness muscles, And like Kaz said, like it does look different in different ways. You don't really have to be buddy with people you forgive, but know that if you do forgive, hopefully you feel free from the burden. You know what I'm saying? That is weighing you down from that situation, whether it be trauma from growing up, whether it be marital issues, whether it be, whatever the case may be, abuse, all types of abuses, whatever the case may be, abandonment issues, flex the forgiveness muscles, because this word is supposed to be washing us. We're supposed to be becoming new creatures, new man, new woman. And part of that is forgiveness. Part of that is healing. I don't want to keep sounding redundant with trauma, so that's why I don't really talk about it like that. You know what I'm saying? But forgiveness is something that is pivotal. And you've seen how Joseph flexed. He was in the best position to force it. The best position, y'all. This is
like 100%.
But he chose otherwise, man. And when you have the power to inflict the same damage to you, or has been done to you, to somebody else, and you choose not to, that says a lot. So I don't know if anybody want to add anything. If anybody got any questions, or anybody want to say something on the YouTube chat.
A few seconds.
I wanted to say, I do believe he forgave his brothers as well. And what the article had pointed out was like his tone changed because they saw Jacob's death in Joseph, which is why he asked him, how is he doing after he said, I am Joseph? But they were still shocked. So what Kaz was saying earlier, how there's different methods of forgiveness. Like it doesn't mean that he had any hatred or any maliciousness towards his brothers, but he lost, like Panah brought out, he lost his mother. He wanted to know about the affairs of Benjamin. And then also Judah correlated it with his father's health, which is what makes sense as to why he asked him, he asked him how is my father doing so? I believe also that he forgave them. It's just he had to lament the death of a second parent on top of his mother being gone, and then take all that in and then still forgive and be the bigger man to his own brothers.
Once he had a brother he could have built a relationship with. You know, for years that he could have built that with Benjamin.
You're right, Mike. Right, let's get real about our problems, man. It's a fact.
Imagine upon your map. This is Psalm chapter 7. Make haste, O God, to deliver me. Make haste to help me, O Lord. Let them be ashamed and confounded that seek after my soul. Let them be turned backward and put to confusion that desire my hurt. Let them be turned back for a reward of their shame that say, Aha, aha. Let all those that seek thee rejoice and be glad in thee. And let such as love thy salvation say continually, let God be magnified. But I am poor and needy. Make haste unto me, O God. Thou art my help and my deliverer, O Lord. Make no terror. In the name of YHWH, B'Hashem YHWH, the one of the Yad, Amen.
Amen.
Amadim Shabbat. Amadim. Barak. Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai Barakatah.
Y'all about some y'all shop, bro.
Ayo, Shalom.